We call the work session for the town council of February the 17th to order. If we could all please stand for the invocation. Mr.
First, Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day, for your blessings, Lord. We thank you for your generosity for our island, Lord, and peace and comfort we often take for granted, Lord. And Lord, we just ask that you be with us as the town council and the government officials of this community. Let us make the right decisions. Those decisions are in accordance with your will and your direction, Lord. And we just pray for peace at this time, Lord. And we just ask for continued guidance over us. That's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening, everybody that's out in Zoom land. We don't have any public, so I'm not going to do public comment. Do I hear a motion to adopt tonight's agenda?
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, first up is to review the budget expenses. Mr. Talbot.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move up here so I can address you better. We gave everybody, on the agenda had a list of our proposed budget, and I will stress that this is a proposed request for expenditures. This is not anything approved. This is nothing that's been settled. Of course, the true work we will present this to you, and decision, of course, can come at a later time. First up is the general government. We do have a few minor changes from what was in the agenda. One major change, we found an extra one and a digit that changed things significantly. In any event, starting with general government, you'll see salaries and expenses at the top. We've already done salaries and benefits. We've already done salaries and benefits with the Budget and Personnel Committee last month. And those are just the numbers that were discussed at filled into the budget worksheet here. Moving down to operational expenses, we did increase bank charges this year. We see every year that more and more folks would like to pay their bills, and that it makes for more bank charges. So we've upgraded or upped that line item slightly to reflect that fact. We are discussing, just starting to discuss, allowing doing e-billing and things like that, so that we can save on postage and allow even more items to be paid online. I think that's the way of the future. We certainly want to be in tune with that. Moving on down, we've bumped our cleaning up a little bit. Something that hasn't been done in a number of years. We just did in town offices here is to do some floor care. We had not budgeted for that in the past, but it needs to be done at least annually. So we bumped that number up just a little bit so we can at least do that annually just to maintain our floors. Moving on down, our insurance is up slightly. That's just a normal rate of increase, but Kelly has been working very hard for the last few months, and this goes back to before Christmas, on a program that Bursa has to reduce our overall insurance cost. And she has a binder that, I'm not exaggerating, is 3 inches thick back there with documents we have to, of organizations we have to fill out, or organizations that we have to organize, committees, and documents that we have to assemble in order for Bursa to give us this 5% discount. I think we're on track to do it. We'll be presenting some things to you at the March 7th council meeting so that you can approve that policy and we can move forward on that hopefully this year. And we do have to get 100% on Bursa's checklist in order to get that discount. I feel certain that with the work Kelly's done on this, we can do that this year and get a nice 5% discount, because that is a healthy number, and that bill will be due in the first couple of weeks of the fiscal year all at once. We upped our audit expense this year. We did receive more than $750,000 in federal government money, and that requires us to have a single audit. those are a little more expensive. We did one this year for the first time, so we did increase that slightly to cover that next year because we know we'll be getting another tranche of ARPA funds in the next fiscal year. Moving on down, of course, the Civic Center donations and meals tax donations are for now the same. Further down, you'll see the expenses are pretty level until we get down to, we did put some more money in for the old firehouse. I think I did mention to most of you that we will need to replace the stair chair that's in the old firehouse. It's much cheaper than putting in an elevator, and since we are leasing that to the public now, we do need to maintain access to the second floor. I had Mark check with his sources at the state and federal government, and we have to maintain what was there as far as ADA access. The issue is that stair chair has been there for at least 40 years, so, and that predates ADA, so we're going to have to maintain. No?
That's about the second or third one that's been there.
How long? Right, but when did they first install that stair chair?
God, a long time ago, but that's not the chair.
That's not the chair, but we had a chair.
Oh, yeah,
We had
a chair,
access
yes,
with-
you're correct.
We had access to the second floor.
You
so,
did. Yeah, we
we
did.
have to maintain that access in the same form
Right.
that we did, so.
Yeah.
There's money in there to replace that stair chair, which is going to cost us a little over $8,000. You'll see a line for ARPA projects. That line item, $472,000, consists of money that ARPA has already, the ARPA committee has already talked about, and that's some money for the fire department for an ambulance and a air tank compressor. The money for Crowber Street that they, ARPA committee discussed last time, and I also put a pool of money in there, about $200,000, and that's just a suggestion, of course, to for nonprofits to draw from. That number can go up or down as the ARPA committee and the council asks. Moving on down, the usual grant for the Virginia Commission for the Arts, and our trolley. Our expense for trolley this year, $25,000, a little bit up over last year. Also, I have a line item in of $50,000 to go back to the Tourism Reserve Fund. You'll remember that we did withdraw some funds from that account this year, or from that reserve account this year, as a donation to some nonprofits. So that money replaces that. And the transfer to the harbor you see for $55,000 is a match for the VPA grant that we are hoping that we will receive this spring. We've already done the presentation, the application through March 1st, which is all done and ready to submit. And that is for replacing the last wooden finger pier at the First Mare Harbor. We've already got a design on the board for suggestion for the FY24 grant cycle that I think will be good. Going down to capital improvements, and Harvey and I just finished the capital improvement plan the other day. He's still working on some other things for it, but we basically have the list and the funds associated with that list, and we have included all of the capital improvement items for FY23 in this budget. There's $50,000 in there for property acquisition reserve, which we haven't contributed to in a number of years, and we did put a pretty big dent in that account when they bought Matthews property for well development. So that contributes some money back to that reserve account. We've got some money in there for office equipment, which is normal maintenance amount. I have some money in for as well for doing some renovations in this room in particular that is long overdue. The finishes and furnishings in this room are 25 years old. We like to make a few replacements and upgrades for that. You'll notice that we have nothing in for the new boiler, and that's because the new boiler is here and just getting ready to be installed. So that expense is done. And that takes us through general government. And before we move off that tab, if anybody has any questions on that tab, I'll be glad to answer those.
I have one, if I may, for the town office staff line. It's showing like a 6% increase in salaries, which follow down with
You're talking about
retirement.
right here.
Yes.
Is that the one?
Yeah, okay, that's the one you had the error on. Okay, no problem.
No, there was
Oh,
no error.
okay.
There was no error. That line item is due to increases in salaries in the town office. You'll notice that line item is still considerably below actual for FY '21.
So I guess my question is you're showing 6% there, but then like a department like Public Works is like half that much.
Yes, and that was, there was a few increases. You had increase to, you had increases in salaries last year, the normal increases in salaries. You had increase to your executive staff last year that the council made, and you also had a few increases. We bumped a few members of the town office staff for additional duties that they received.
Okay.
That accounts for just about all of it.
Okay.
And was part of it related, because you didn't really replace Karen, and they were taking some of those duties and stuff, too, like double duties?
We did not replace, basically, we had a couple of retirements not long after I arrived in 2020. We replaced Kenny's position, the building and zoning administrator. When our finance director left, we moved the business administrator into the finance director's position and eliminated the business administrator's position. The duties that some of the duties that the business administrator had at that time, we parceled out to a few other employees in the town office and gave them some additional money to perform that duty as well, and that's working very well so far. So that's why we're still under the FY '21 budget for salaries in the town office.
But that was some of the reason they got more money,
They got
because they had
money
more
for
duties.
assuming additional duties.
Yeah,
right?
assuming, that's what I'm saying, there's more duties, that's another reason they got the extra bump, because they had to assume more duties.
Absolutely. And that was over and above their normal merit increase.
Right, that's what I was saying, thank you.
Anything else on general government? If not, we'll move to Public Works. And here again, I'll go through this. Harvey's here to answer any questions when they get down into the technical areas here. Again, salaries and overtime, salaries and benefits have already been discussed. Those are the exact numbers that were discussed with Budget Personnel Committee a few weeks ago. Again, now Public Works, this is pretty straightforward. You're going to see normal increases, a lot of level funding, some normal increases for inflation, and some minor additions. We did, you'll see that the sanitation contract went up just a little bit. It's a 5-year contract and expires, I think, in another 2 years. So we will be, of course, advertising that in a few years for a new contract. Again, we are about the level in there. You don't see much of an increase at all in the operations, Public Works operations. Going down to capital improvements, this year we are buying a vehicle, so there will be none. We will not ask for any next year. We have additional repairs to the Donald J. Amron Center in there. And this year we still have $15,000 in this year's budget for that. We're not sure we'll get it done. We might just roll it into next year's. Resurface the tennis and pickleball courts is on here, but we are not funding that in 2023. As you remember, I was asked to fund that out of this year's budget, so we're looking at that, trying to fund that from this year's budget, and that's why it doesn't appear in FY '23. Brianna's Park, we don't have anything budgeted for this year. We still have the Bridge Tenders House restoration money in there, and we hope to get that done. We still have money in there to replace the fuel pump in Public Works, and talked to Harvey about that the other day. We decided to, let this one run as long as it will, and we'll replace that when the time comes. But every year that we don't have to do it, and it works satisfactorily, is the year we can save that money. We do have, you'll notice that there's a septic system for the chamber parcel and some public restrooms for the chamber parcel, and you'll notice that those two line items add up to $100,000. That's the amount of the requested grant. that we have submitted through the Eastern Shore Chamber and the EDA. And you'll see a revenue line. I know we've done revenues already, but there's a revenue line for $100,000 from EDA as well that matches that expense. Moving on down, we have $20,000 in there for lighting at Brianna's Park, and repairs to the Donald J. Amron Center, again, are in there as a capital improvement, and we have $90,000 in for a backhoe that we'd like to replace, and that's a proactive replacement. This one's, it's been here for quite a while. Years that Harley?
Late '90s.
Late '90s. So that, and construction equipment, when you use it like we do and keep it up as good as the time does, tends to last, but that is, it's getting a little long in the tooth even for us, so it's about time for proactive replacement, and we will certainly fund that if we can. Any questions in Public Works? Okay, Mosquito Control. This is a short budget. Again, salaries and benefits are the same. Insurance is a little higher this year on that. The rest of it, you're going to see about level funding for the entire operation. We've got certainly some money in there for the chemical that we use. That, as I think I've told you all before, that's very expensive. It's about $200 a gallon.
The aerial spray.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
And we spray 40 gallons every time that we do an aerial spraying. So it's fairly expensive to run that operation. We generally have money for 6 aerial sprayings, but we saved money in the last few years by increasing our truck coverage, and that seems to, if the problem is not too bad, that seems to work very well. We get out there early and often with the truck, it really helps. Any questions on mosquito control? Moving on to roads. Again, salaries, benefits are the same. Operational expenses, you'll see that a lot of this, again, is funded level. Just normal increases. Salaries and benefits have the normal increase that we calculate for all employees. And again, we put just over $20,000 in for snow removal. We hope that we don't use all that. We pray that we don't use all that half a year. We've got $105,000 for pavement maintenance, and that comes directly from our U1 grant. You'll see a revenue line in there for, I think, $728,000 for this year for VDOT money coming from our U1 grant. We've got some money in for sidewalks. Of course, everybody understands the deal that we have for sidewalks. The owner pays for half, we pay for half on the others in the right of way. And that about covers roads. Any questions? I might also say that $50,000 at the bottom will be the third installment of our street sweeper in a 5-year lease, 5-year lease to own. Moving on to police. Salaries and benefits here are, this does, and again, I'll reiterate that what we're doing tonight is a request. You'll see that the salaries for officers at the very top is increased, and that reflects the 2 new officers which were discussed at the Budget Personnel Committee here last month. Well, I'm sorry, earlier this month. Over time, we held level. I believe you, for those of you who weren't at Budget Personnel Committee, that will include 1 brand new officer and 1 mid-range officer.
That's what we're doing.
So 1 experienced, 1 with some experience, and 1 brand new, and those 2 salaries reflect that amount. I believe the total was about $126,000 for those 2 folks. The benefits number has been increased likewise, all those numbers. The rest of it you're going to see is just about level funding. Not a lot of difference there. We did manage to get some capital items that were in last year's budget taken care of this year. The bailout bags were done. We still have one or two items. I think the camera system for the interrogation has been purchased, just not installed yet. The $12,000 stencil recorder is kind of in the same situation as our pump back in Public Works. When this one no longer works, that money will provide a new one, and as long as we don't have to use that, we will roll it over. Now, we did have money in there as well for intoxilizers and a radio repeater, and since we rolled that money over as well, or has been, from my understanding, rolled over as well, we decided to leave the highest value of those three rollovers there, counting on the fact that all three of those items won't go at one time. We can fund either one of them with that $12,000. That gives us a little more breathing room in our budget. And that's about it for police department. Any questions?
With the salaries and everything, does that include the promotions that I think we tabled, and then?
Those promotions have been in the budget. Yes,
Okay.
they are still in there.
During this year's budget.
They are, yes, they are
Okay.
actually in this year's.
Okay.
So of course they wrote
They'll
them
carry
on
over.
next year's.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
The community youth programs, is that the poker run and things like that? We still talking about trying to make that into a nonprofit type operation?
We can certainly do that. Our auditors didn't seem to be too upset about it. It was certainly, they really, when I questioned the head auditor, he said, you know, it appears to us that it's fine, but I can certainly see the benefits of it being a nonprofit and taking it out of our budget. So we'll look into that a little bit more and make a recommendation.
Yeah, I got one for Robbie and that. Robbie, y'all do a tremendous, don't think I'm busting anything you're doing. It's amazing. And even for the, you know, what goes there, it's amazing. But I think Jay will go along with this one. We need some organized stuff done with the youth that you got some young enough officers, whether it be, whatever, you know, to get out there, whether it be bad, you know, whatever it is. We got a gym. If we need to upgrade something for them, get out there and go do stuff with them.
We're in discussion
And any kind of thing you need,
several things.
on several things in that, because not only that, when they have that relationship with their officer, when they get the trust, where they trust the officer, you'll find out so much stuff about their lives and stuff going on in the community. And I appreciate you going down that road, and thank you.
Any other questions on the police tab? Then the last one we have is a relatively small budget for dispatch. Again, there's not a lot of increase here. No capital items. Normal increases for items that were that get us with inflation, and then normal salary increases for merit increase that we calculate every year. So if there are any questions on that, I'll be glad to take those. Any questions on any of the budget? We can go back to revenues, whatever you'd like to do. Again, we have, by referring to the budget calendar, we have budget personnel coming up in March. We'll be discussing water, EMS, and
Police department.
we got police department here. So water, EMS, and harbor, I'm sorry, in budget and personnel. And that will be our last review of expenses. Meetings after that, we are putting it all together and tweaking it till it balances and that sort of thing. And then we'll have a document that we can go out and advertise and hopefully approve.
Mike, I do have a comment. I'm so proud of the budget and personnel and yourself, because we've had a couple natural increases in our community. We've been, like Jay said in his prayer, we've been blessed. But you can't keep on thinking that because in the last 2 years that we've had increases that they're going to be continuing. Right now we got some world things when we're talking about, like I said, they said one invasion, gas is $7. You know what that does to tourism. You know what I'm saying? So it was, y'all held your ground, and that's where to the old budgets is what I'm saying. I'm not projecting that, hey, this is still going to keep going, and we pray that it does, but you just can't keep thinking and assuming that. And you all have done it. You kept it, realistic. And if things do go good, guess what? That's great, but you just can't keep assuming that things are going to go like they have been in the last couple of years. We've been very blessed, like I said, in the last few years, unbelievably, as a community. with people coming and visiting and spending their money and staying here in the motels and eating at the restaurant. We've been blessed with the pandemic. So thank you for it.
Thank you, sir.
Alrighty, next up on the agenda, bear with me. It's going to take a little bit of time. Got to do a lot of reading. The town of Chincoteague has been working and studying on sewage disposal for many years, as most of you know, and we continue to do so. I would like to review the most recent chronology, can't get that out, of the events related to the issue. The council formed a wastewater advisory committee back in October of 2011. It was 5 members from local business owners, engineers, and their purpose was to determine the wastewater needs of Chincoteague and to make recommendations to the council for wastewater collection and disposals. They worked on it for a couple of years, moved forward to June of 2013. The wastewater committee issued a final report and concluded that the entire island should not, at this time, transition from individual septic drain fields to private treatment systems to a single public wastewater utility system, stating, "It is clear that a voluntary connection agreement will be needed that would allow the cost burden to be carried by the commercial and public customers serving the tourism industry. These issues mean that there will likely be more than one type of treatment facility used to manage the needs of Chincoteague Island." The committee identified the town's concentrated commercial areas as Main Street and Maddox Boulevard as being the primary targets for the initial treatment efforts. In October of 2020, the Circuit Court approved the extension of the Hampton Road Sanitation District service area to include all of Accomack County. In November of 2020, the town was approached by Todd Burbidge of Blue Water Development Group concerning the possible acquisition of the sewage treatment plant located at Sunset Bay Condominiums. Again, in November of 2020, the town manager and an independent engineer began the evaluation of the plant and the associated facilities. Again, in November, the council was presented with the possibility of the plant's acquisition at its workshop meeting. The presentation was held in executive session to protect the town's position due to the competitive nature of the offer and with the private entities. December of 2020, at its monthly meeting, council was presented with a preliminary report of the plant's condition, but due to the imposed time constraints, could not complete a proper evaluation of the facility and likewise could not determine the plant's overall viability. Council passed on the opportunity to acquire the facility at that time. In 2021, the town manager conducted Mr. Burbidge to determine the level of interest in the transfer moving forward. Council was informed that Mr. Burbidge continued his interest in the transfer of the facility to the town at a reasonable cost. The council conducted a public hearing to determine the public's priorities for the expenditure of the $2.98 million of the ARPA funding. 75% of the speakers at that public hearing said public sewage was their priority. The town conducted the Hampton Road Sanitation District to propose that the HRSD assume the ownership and subsequent operation of the Sunset Bay facility. HRSD offered to provide a consultant to evaluate the plant and proposed a transfer and also to commission a broader study to identify a more permanent solution for the sewage disposal needs of North Accomack County. Hampton Road Sanitation District experts performed several on-site inspections at the plant. They submitted a report and a recommendation for the Sunset Bay facility, which was reviewed in executive session at our October workshop council meeting. The town negotiated with Mr. Burbidge to transfer the plant, the land, and the associated facilities to the town of Chincoteague at no cost. Again, in October of 21, Hampton Road Sanitation District agreed to, in principle, to accept the facility and the permits for the town to operate the plant moving forward with the existing customers and to develop an additional capacity to utilize the unused permits. The town agreed to fund construction of the collection system as well as control approval of the connections to the system. November of 21, the town agreed in principle to fund necessary one-time upgrades to the facility and transfer the plant to Hampton Road Sanitation District for all future operation, maintenance, and expansion. December of 21, the town's ARPA committee proposed the utilization of ARPA funds from the necessary upgrades to the Sunset Bay facility and design and construction of the collection system for the planned island service area. Again, in 21, Blue Water Development agreed in principle to transfer the plant and associated facilities directly to Hampton Road Sanitation District to simplify and expedite the transfer process. In summary, the decision to pursue a limited service area with the existing DEQ permitted facility and additional permits for expansion allows the town to offer through Hampton Road Sanitation District a partial solution to sewage collection, treatment, and disposal for commercial and public customers that do not have other viable options. This decision directly correlates with the stated priorities expressed by the public at the ARPA funding hearing. The use of the ARPA funds to construct a collection system while pursuing other available state and federal funding opportunities will keep the cost of such solutions primarily within the private sector without placing undue burden on the local taxpayers. So that brings the public up to speed on what we've been doing in a lot of these closed sessions. Been discussing the possibilities of septic for the island, which have been a discussion for many, many years. To that end, this letter of intent is submitted to you as a memorandum of understanding between the parties that Chincoteague Sunsets Limited Liability Corporation does intend to donate the real estate property and wastewater treatment facilities, collectively as the facilities, to the Hampton Road Sanitation District at no cost to Chincoteague Sunsets LLC. Conditioned to the following obligation of the parties: express confirmation by the town and Hampton Road Sanitation District that the donation of the facilities to Hampton Road Sanitation District by Chincoteague Sunsets is a tax-deductible gift, and that the appropriate donee party shall execute any and all sanitation gift receipts and acknowledgments, gifting agreements, and issue any other confirmations desired by the Chincoteague Sunsets or that may be required by the IRS as evidence of the gift as tax-deductible by the Chincoteague Sunsets. The town of Chincoteague shall facilitate the transition at its sole cost and expense and fund any and all improvements to the facilities required by Hampton Road Sanitation District. Further, the Hampton Road Sanitation District is to further upgrade and operate the plant to include additional unused capacity moving forward, with the town reimbursing Hampton Road Sanitation District the full cost of all work required to fully honor previously purchased capacity. The town will identify a limited sewer service area within its corporate limits. Town will construct a collection system in the identified area, and Hampton Road Sanitation District will provide treatment for its limited service area up to the capacity of the permits, and the town and Hampton Road Sanitation District shall honor all existing customers that currently are served by the facility or have purchased EDUs as of the date immediately prior to the donation of the facilities, with service to those previously purchased EDUs that are not connected at the time of the donation to be provided as soon as the plant capacity is available. Chincoteague Sunsets is prepared to donate the facilities as soon as possible upon the satisfaction of the conditions listed 1, 2, and 6. Further, by execution below by all parties, Chincoteague Sunsets, Town of Chincoteague, and Hampton Road Sanitation District acknowledge that I have been asked to assist in drafting the documentation for gifting the facilities and other documentation necessary for gifting, including but not limited to drafting of easements and all other deeds. Let's see. Should the terms as presented hereon be accepted to you for the donation of facilities to Hampton Road Sanitation District by Chincoteague Sunsets, I do request that you execute a copy and return to my attention as soon as possible, and look forward to working with you and carry out this transition. Signed, John Custis. And to the public, this has been posted to the website so you can read it at your leisure. Sorry if I butchered it up, but I'm not accustomed to reading lawyers speak, so take what you get. All right, I've spoken enough. Now it's y'all's turn. Are there any council comments?
I'll probably say while we're going to the public, we should say that the kind of the immediate, when it gets built out, would be a 37,000 gallon per day. It's not like an end all, whole sewer system we still have to expand later on.
Right.
I'm saying something, I think that should be explained too, that it's 37,000 in the near future.
Yeah, we're not going to handle the whole
It's
caboodle in one thing.
It's not going to take care of. It's not going to be an end all. We don't want to say.
But it's a
when they
start.
hear that, it is a start. It definitely is a start, and it gets you in there with Hampton Road Sewer District, which they have capabilities. I didn't want the whole island to think this is a
Right, yeah.
end all.
Right, and that the limited area will also be put out on where that's going to serve. Any other discussion on the septic issue?
My only comment about it is pretty much piggybacking off of Gene. This is definitely a step in the right direction for the town. And no, it is not an end all. It's going to be going forward for years and years and years to work, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. And the commercial district is so desperate for this. So I'm just hoping that, through all of this, that we can make it work for everybody.
Anything further on the septic issues? Alrighty, moving on to council comments on general stuff. Ms. Ellen?
No, sir.
Ms. Denise?
I have two things. One I brought up to Mike a couple of days ago in the office. If y'all watched the Super Bowl, so I'm sure some did, some didn't, every other vehicle ad out there was for electric vehicles. And this town does not, except for I believe up there to your hotel, there are no charging stations. A constituent sent an email to me with a link, of course I got to read it, transportation.gov, where there is some federal money out there to build some charging stations. And I really think that we need to look into that, given the fact that more and more people are traveling with electric vehicles. Could be a good thing for the town. We've got plenty of places that, we could put them. So hopefully, Mike can look in a little bit of that and see what we can come up with. And the other thing I mentioned a few months ago, but did a little bit more digging as to the exact date. But November 15th marks the 100th anniversary of the opening of the causeway. And I would really like to see the town maybe do I don't know what you want to call it, not a reopening, but maybe a ribbon cutting of sorts at the base of the causeway on that day, or as close to it as possible. I think it's, the causeway brought the world to us and brought us to the world. And it's a major thing and a major milestone here for this town. So I would really like to see us try to work on doing something for that anniversary. Other than that, today's World Kindness Day. I hope somebody did something kind for everybody, or at least a few people. But thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
We've been working on the charging stations down in Anac, Mike, so we might want to coordinate with Butch first because they're trying to roll those out on the eastern shore with some limited cost to the municipalities, and that's in process. So we need to follow, but we need to push them a little bit, I think, because the need is really here for this summer. Denise is right on that. I'd like to kind of give a pat out to all the fellow council members and the mayor, and especially Mike, on this sewage. This is a pretty big deal if everything goes through, and it's been done, as we've said before, at no cost to the citizens. And it's got a lot of potential going forward. So I think we all deserve a little slap on the back, and especially Mike, who's worked tirelessly over the last year, dotting his I's and crossing his T's and looking out for everybody's best interest or the town's best interest. So hopefully all that'll go well. That's all I've got.
Thank you.
I'll just piggyback off Chris as far as the sewer plan. I think it's a great advance. I think it's going to be extraordinary what it could do for our downtown as far as revitalizing that. I'd like to thank Mr. Burbage and his group too, because we certainly won't be able to do it without him. And then the second thing I have is just with the girls basketball team. They're heading to districts, I believe, next week. So wish them luck as well. So.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback with Jesse and his prayer we're blessed, and thank you, Lord, for everything that's positive that's happening in the community. And I know we still want people, when they're out on the water, be looking for a young man who lost his life, and pray that things will come to fruition there. And like you say, and thank you all for being very conservative. And I think that's the proper way too, because we don't know what the day brings. There's a hymn, one day at a time now. It's there's just so much out there in the world, and we just pray that people will all, like you say, Kindness Day. We just pray that countries and people can be more kind to one another. And it's me too. I mean, I'm very opinionated, but you know what? I mean, when I look at people coming and they tell you that they love you, they're not in the same thought that I am. And it makes my heart that I can't say, I do say it back. But people just need to love and care for one another, and that takes care of it all. That takes care of it all. And I know it starts with me first, because I can say I can get riled up faster than anybody up here. But like you say, if we can just learn to live and work, and I know that people think this is a bad word, but compromise where the compromise is better for all. And I just pray that as we go on, that we would do, like Jay said, where God would have us to do, and they'll take care of it.
I think, the citizens have spoke, and just want to commend Mike on the job he's done, as others have spoken as well on the sewage treatment. It's been a ton of work that's been involved in this process. And again, it's something the citizens want. I think it's a great start. The building that foundation, and we've needed it for a while, and it just kind of rolled down the mountain here without a whole lot being done. But now we're on the right track, and I see good things. I see good things with our group, our public works group. You see them out working, and got a diversified group. I mean, I just took a quick spin through Brianna Park today, and we've got the whole crew. I mean, it's got plumbers and looks like electricians and water people and everything else are just putting the pieces together, and that's what we need. We need diversification. We need the capabilities, and the capabilities are here, and utilize them, and just kudos to the town for doing a fine job. And as Gene mentioned, prayers continue for the Nelson family in their search. Their unfinished search and just be with the community. May God bless it. Thanks.
Mr. Mayor, can I add on one more thing, please?
Why not?
All right. We were supposed to have the girls volleyball team in here because they won the district, and because of COVID, that didn't happen. Well, they have won the district in basketball too, and they start the regional play next week. So maybe at our March meeting, I don't know. I don't know if that's too soon or not. Maybe we could try to get them in here.
We could wait until they win softball too.
That would be look. I'm hoping for the trifecta there. Yeah, definitely.
But they do need to be recognized. But we'll see. Depends on what school restrictions are too, so
Yeah.
keep your fingers crossed.
We're gonna have a problem.
I heard that.
Yeah. Helps a lot.
All righty. Nothing from me. Any thing else for the good of the order? I will entertain a motion to adjourn. So move.
Second.
Motion and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
See y'all.